Hello and welcome to DU. I'm Tara Boyle, the Director of Undergraduate Student Affairs at the Josef Korbel School of International Studies. I'm looking forward to meeting each of you on campus this fall, and so are our other two INTS and PPOL part-time advisors. So this webinar is to help you prepare for fall registration. Today, I'll be giving a very brief overview of both the International Studies and Public Policy majors at the Josef Korbel School. I'll go over a couple sample schedules for the first quarter for each of the majors, and then I'll open it up for questions. While this webinar will give you a brief overview of each major, the main goal is to help you figure out what to register for this fall quarter. We'll have a departmental reception during orientation, during which we'll go over more details of areas such as departmental distinction and dual degree planning for the majors. And of course, the INTS and PPOL advisors will be available for one-on-one advising meetings throughout the academic year. Then to wrap up the webinar, I'll be happy to answer any questions you have. So to start out, the Bachelor of Arts program in International Studies offers undergraduate students the knowledge and skills to succeed in a globalized world that is rapidly changing. These days, employers are seeking skills such as language and cultural competencies that we require of our students. We provide an interdisciplinary approach to the global perspective, providing both the theoretical background as well as more practical skills and knowledge. Our program is built to be flexible and as a part of a liberal arts education, so you will gain exposure to many different ways of thinking and approaching global issues. And this means that in your first quarter at DU, you have quite a bit of flexibility with what classes you take. So in other words, when registering, don't stress out if you don't get your first choice of a class schedule. You'll have plenty of opportunities to get the courses you need over the next few years. So the International Studies major is a 44 credit major, which is 11 4-credit courses. To build a foundation in international relations, students are required to take our 3 core courses. They're listed on the screen, but they're INTS 1500, Contemporary Issues in the Global Economy, INTS 1700, Introduction to International Politics, and INTS 2975, Global Issues Research Practicum. INTS 1500 and 1700 are both prerequisites for INTS 2975, as well as for any 3000 level INTS courses. The BA program also requires a minor, which you don't need to declare right away. You will also need to choose an area of specialization and take at least 3 courses in that selected specialization area. I'll talk more about the specializations in a bit. The International Studies major also has a 2-year foreign language requirement, which can be fulfilled in a couple of ways. If you're starting out with a new language, you will want to be sure to register for the first class in the beginner level sequence this fall. If you are continuing with a language with which you have previous experience, you'll want to be sure to take the language placement exam to figure out which course level you should enroll. More information on the placement test can be found on the new student registration website. Since most students study abroad fall of their junior year, it's best to get the 2-year language requirement out of the way prior to studying abroad due to the sequencing of the first 2 years. So again, I would recommend getting started with that the first quarter. When selecting your language, I encourage you to consider your career goals and regional interests, as having proficiency in a language can really help with certain career paths. For example, if you want to go into intelligence work, Chinese or Russian are both great options. If interested in the Middle East, Arabic would be a great place to start, as a couple examples. Another way to fulfill the INTS language requirement is to demonstrate intermediate level proficiency in one foreign language, via an alternative testing option prearranged with the director of the Center for World Languages and Cultures. We also require that our students study abroad. Students generally go abroad during the fall of their junior year, so most first-year students don't need to worry about looking into study abroad until sophomore year. However, if you're a transfer student or brought in a significant number of credits and are wanting to graduate early, you may want to start looking into study abroad starting this fall for the following year, because that application process is typically the year prior. The remaining credits for the major can be filled with a combination of a second specialization, INTS electives, INTS honors courses, or an internship. We recommend that students complete internships, although it's not a required part of the major, and generally not something you need to worry about during your first quarter. As I mentioned earlier, you will choose an area of specialization in which you will need to take at least 3 courses. You won't really be taking these courses until after you've completed the INTS core, although if you do take a 2,000 level course this fall, it can apply toward your specialization. But again, you'll have time to pick which specialization you want, so you don't need to come into the program knowing. There is a lot of crossover between the specializations, but the 3 specialization areas that we currently offer are Global Political Economy and International Politics, which prepares students for the complex international economic environment, International Development and Health, which offers an in-depth look at the intersection of 21st century development and health issues from both practical policy-oriented and theoretical perspectives. And finally, International Organizations, Security and Human Rights, which explores the problems of violence on the world stage and the many ways in which states, international organizations, and NGOs seek to respond to the challenges of promoting peace, human rights, security, and conflict resolution. Students majoring in international studies or public policy also have the opportunity to complete their BA and MA or BA and MPP within 5 years through our Korbel 5 program. This program takes extensive planning based on number of credits, course requirements, application timelines, and more. You can see some of the requirements listed on the screen. And again, as I mentioned, during the reception and orientation, we'll be going into more detail on this. If you're interested in the BA MA Korbel 5, I encourage you to schedule an appointment with me sometime during fall quarter. You'll also want to be sure to get started with either INTS 1500 or INTS 1700 this fall. The BA MPP, which is the Master's in Public Policy, has slightly more flexibility, so it's not imperative that you come in to meet with an advisor right away. On the next screen, I have put together a sample schedule for your first quarter at DU. Generally, students register for 16 credits each quarter to stay on track for graduation in 4 years. As explained in the registration webinar last week, incoming students will need to register for the FSEM, which is the freshman seminar. Then, if majoring in international studies, I would recommend taking either 1500 or INTS 1700, and these can be taken in either order. So you can take 1700 first and 1500 second. You can take them concurrently as well. But if these classes fill up, you're also welcome to take one of our 2000 level topics courses. You do need to take both 1500 and 1700 prior to registering for INTS 2975 or any 3000 level INTS courses. If you're starting from scratch with a foreign language, you'll want to start taking the intro level fall quarter of this year so that you'll be able to complete the 2-year requirement, which is taught in a sequence by the end of your sophomore year, so that studying abroad fall of junior year doesn't interfere with the sequencing. If you place into a higher level of a language, I would suggest starting at that level this fall if it is offered, or whenever it is offered next. Finally, you'll be able to fill in the remaining 4 credits to reach 16 credits in your first quarter at DU with one of the common curriculum requirements. Another option for this 4th course would be to take a second INTS course. You could take 1500, 1700, or a 2000 level course, as I mentioned before. Again, there's no need to stress if you don't get into your first planned schedule. There are generally 2 to 3 sections of 1500 and 1700 offered each quarter. So you'll have plenty of time to take those in winter if they fill up before you register in the fall, or for this fall. All right, now on to public policy. So the study of public policy includes curriculum that is both analytical and quantitative. Public policy majors typically have a desire to make a difference in the world, are strong writers, and are moderately comfortable with numbers. Public policy is an issues-based discipline in which evidence-based solutions are developed to solve the world's problems. I often think of it as the real work of government when you remove the politics. It is a 48 credit major, including 8 required courses, which are as follows: analysis and action, analytical and critical skills, federal budgetary policy, Supreme Court and public policy, economics for policy 1 and 2, power and policy, and evidence and logic. All of the required courses are currently only offered during winter and spring quarters, so you won't be able to register for them this fall. The public policy major also requires 4 electives, which include a list of pre-approved electives outside the department. A double major is required for this major, which is not as stressful as it may sound. DU makes it very easy for students to double major due to the quarter system. Plus, you don't have to declare your second major right away. You can explore some different areas before deciding upon a second major. So for some examples, if you're interested in environmental policy, you could double major in public policy and either geography or geology. If you're interested in health policy, you could major in public policy along with one of the sciences, such as biology. Or if you're interested in social policy, you could do public policy and sociology or gender and women's studies. Study abroad is not required, but encouraged. And then an internship is also not required, but highly encouraged. The second major does not need to be in a related discipline. You're welcome to have your second major be music, although choosing a field related in a related discipline will of course help you professionally. Now, here's a sample schedule for someone planning to or thinking about majoring in public policy. Again, you'll need to register for an FSEM. Since all of the required public policy courses are offered during winter and spring quarters, you can take public policy or PPOL 1910, hard choices in public policy, which counts as a PPOL elective, as well as an SI Society, which is one of the common curriculum requirements. Then you'll want to start a foreign language to work on your common curriculum foreign language requirement. And finally, you can fill the remaining spot in your schedule with another common core class to get to the 16 credits. If you have a second major or minor that you're already planning on, you can take a course in that area instead of the common curriculum area. Or even wait on taking public policy 1910. Again, there's a lot of flexibility with your schedule. So now that we've gone over the requirements for both majors at the Josef Korbel School and discussed some of the potential plans for fall registration, we can open it up for any questions you have. Okay, so there's a question that says, what about if interested in global health? We do have global health courses. So we have the specialization in international development and health, which there are some classes about global health in that specialization. So intro to global health, gender and global health, those types of classes. So you would definitely want to take those. And then what would be a minor if you're interested in global health? Biology would be a good option. You could also look into public policy, because you could look into policy for global health, geography, a language. Depending on where you're wanting to do work, you might need to know a language. Another question is, are INTS 1500 and 1700 1 quarter in length or year long? So each of our courses are just 1 quarter in length. So they'll be covered in the 10-week quarter. Oh, another question is, are there Korbel-specific INTS or PPOL first-year seminar FSEM courses? No, there aren't. You can just take whatever FSEM class you want. So you don't need to take a specific FSEM. Feel free to type in any questions that you have. Okay, so here's a question. If I pursue a double major in international studies and public policy, do I still need a minor? That's a great question. So if you are double majoring, you do not need a minor. So for the BA in international studies, you need either a minor or a second major. For public policy, you would need a second major. Often I find that students will double major and double minor, and there's a lot of room to do that kind of thing at DU. Can I start my language sequence the second year? This question kind of depends on if you're starting with a new language. I would definitely recommend starting your freshman year, especially if you're planning to study abroad your junior year, which most students are, because if you start at sophomore year, so your second year at DU, you would do 1001, 1002, 1003 in your language, and then you'd study abroad in the fall, which could be fine if you're going to a country where your language, you'll be working on the language so that you would be able to continue on in the language when you get back. But if you're going somewhere that you wouldn't be immersing yourself in that language, then you'd have to keep up with the language while you're abroad. I hope that makes sense. So I would recommend, if you're starting fresh with a new language, that you start this fall. If you place into a higher level, then it's possible that you could wait to start the following year. So if you placed into 2001 and wanted to wait a full year to start that, you could, although you would probably still want to keep up on that language. Another question, is it common to take multiple languages for international relations students? Students do that. Typically, if a student has very specific career goals, they will often take 2 languages. I wouldn't say it's common, but more if a student comes in with a background in French but wants to learn Arabic while keeping up on their French. A student could start in the beginning level of Arabic and continue on in whatever level they place into for French, for example. So I wouldn't say it's common, but students definitely do it. How many credits would be the threshold to start studying abroad my second year at DU? So DU has the Charrington Global Scholars Program, which I believe you have to have junior standing for, which is 90 credits, and have been attending DU for a certain number of quarters before. And so say you brought in about 45 credits of transfer credits, AP, IB, you could potentially study abroad next fall, because that would be basically the equivalent to about a year's worth of credits at DU if you bring in 45 credits. So then in that case, you may want to look into studying abroad your second year at DU. But again, it depends on your situation, scholarships, if you're ready for that, and that kind of thing. So we definitely have advisors who can meet with you one-on-one and go over any kinds of questions about when the best time to study abroad would be. Can you study abroad for an entire year or only half a year? You can do either. There are some students who go abroad in one location in the fall, and then they go abroad in another location winter, spring, or you could go for the full year in one location. So if you're wanting to do a language immersion, say in France or Germany or wherever, you could do a full year program. Another question was, can I study abroad more than one semester? So I think I just answered that. These are great questions. How many students participate in the 5-year BA/MA program? So the Korbel 5 program this year we currently have about 15 students starting in their 4th year of that. So they'll be starting with their graduate coursework this year. Last year we had about 8. So those are the students who will be continuing on as full-time. They're graduating with their BA this year, and they'll be continuing on into their 5th year as full MA students. So I would say we'll probably average around 10 to 15 each year. Do students ever study abroad twice? Yes. So some students will go abroad fall of their junior year, and then they'll go again fall of their senior year. DU also has a lot of interterm international courses where you can go over winter break or in the summer for a couple weeks to a location and do kind of a more intensive study in the country. And so those are other options for studying abroad more than once. Could I possibly do the dual degree program in 4 years instead of 5? Yes, this is a possibility. This would be if you're bringing in about 45 credits or more. We could definitely look into this when you're on campus in the fall. If you're in Denver, I'd also be happy to meet with you over the summer to kind of draw out a plan with you. But again, coming in the fall is fine. If you're wanting to do the Korbel 5 program, I would definitely try to get into 1500 and 1700 in the fall if you're wanting to do it in 4 years instead of 5. Another question is, how many students are in the average INTS class? So our intro courses are capped at 45 students, and then we have the next level up, which is 2000 level courses, and these are capped at 35. And then our more in-depth discussion-based courses are capped at 25. But again, you'll have some classes where you have maybe 9 or 10 students in it. So you'll really get to know your professors and the other students in your classes and really be involved in those. Is it easy to transfer into INTS from another program? So if you're transferring from another international relations program, I'm going to answer this in a couple different ways because I'm not sure what specifically you're asking. If you're asking about a different major from DU, it's definitely very easy. We don't have a separate application process or secondary admission. You can just declare INTS as a major. You can do that through the registrar's office, I believe, before even coming to campus. Or you can meet with one of our advisors in the INTS department to sit down and go over the program and declare. If you're transferring in from another university that has an international relations program, yeah, it's also definitely possible. You would want to get courses approved through the registrar's office. So submit syllabi for those to have them reviewed to see if they can be transferred in as INTS credit. So I hope that answers that question. Is there study abroad in Russia? Yes, I've had several students go abroad to Russia. I believe they were either Russian minors or majors, and one of them went over the summer in a approved unaffiliated program, and then others have gone in the fall through the DU partner program. So there's definitely a program there, at least one. And you can also go to the DU website, du.edu/abroad, to search for all the different programs that are offered through DU as DU partner programs. If I plan a double major in international affairs and public policy, who should I talk to about the courses I should select? So you can talk to myself, or we have two other INTS advisors who are part-time in my office. We can all answer your questions about what classes to take and kind of put together a schedule. Since some of the public policy courses are only offered every other year, you would definitely want to sit down with one of us to plan out when you'll be taking those classes that are only offered every other year so that you can graduate in time. What's the advantage of doing a BA for 5 years over just 4 years? So if you're doing just a standalone BA, Bachelor of Arts program, that typically takes 4 years. I think you might be asking about the Korbel 5 program, which is the BA-MA program. And some of the benefits of doing that are a BA is 4 years and a MA is 2 years. So you basically cut off one of the years of both time and money. So you save in costs in those two ways. During your 4th year, so you would apply junior year. And again, I'll go into more details on this at orientation. But during your 3rd year, you would apply. And if you're admitted, then you would start coursework in the graduate program your 4th year. And you would double count those credits for both the BA and MA. So they would finish out your major requirements while also being counted towards your MA. Then you would graduate at the end of the 4th year, sorry. So you would get that 4th year with your undergraduate financial aid and all of that. You'd graduate and then continue on that 5th year as a full-time MA student with any MA graduate financial aid that you are considered for. How do I learn about internships? So we currently have a part-time internship coordinator in our office who can sit down and meet with you to get some ideas about different internships that you can do. There's also someone in the central career office who can meet with you about that as well. And then there's all sorts of events at Korbel throughout the year where you can learn about different organizations and fields of international studies. So you can kind of get an idea of different opportunities there. What sort of student groups does Korbel have, and what types of activities do they engage in? So a couple that I'm aware of are Model UN, and they participate in some of the nationwide Model UN events, and probably meet and do other things on campus. And then there's also an International Affairs Honor Society called Sigma Iota Rho, which those students meet, I think, maybe bi-weekly, and are a part of that honor society. So there must be more, but that's all I can think of off the top of my head. If I'm minoring in Spanish, but I'm transferring credits from AP exams and test into a higher class through the placement test, does it decrease the amount of classes I need to earn a minor? No, so you would still need the same number of credits to complete the minor, but you just wouldn't need to take, say, the intro level if you place higher than the 1000 level. So say you place into 2001, you would still need the same number of credits. So for a Spanish minor, I believe they require 24 credits, so you would still need 24 credits. You just may need higher level credits if you place into a higher level. What classes do you take when you study abroad? That is a good question. So depending on the program that you choose, again, you can go to du.edu/abroad and look up different programs. If you're wanting to get one that's international studies focused, there are lots of options that focus on development, human rights, security. So you could potentially bring courses back to DU to come in as INTS elective credit. You would have to submit syllabi to get those approved for credit. And then you could also bring credits back towards the language minor or major. I often see students double majoring in a language with international studies, or just general electives. Are they taken, so are the study abroad courses taken in the language you are studying or English? So that again depends on the program that you choose. So there are some that are language immersion programs. Excuse me. So if you're wanting to do a language immersion, most, if not all of those courses would be in that language. That's a great way to learn the language. Some programs, or a lot of programs, are in English with the option to take some classes in another language. But again, it depends on where you're going and which program you choose. So you could look at that Study Abroad, the Office of International Education website. If I intend to pursue the 5-year degree program, when would I need to make that decision? So we have a Korbel 5 interest form that you can submit during the fall quarter or during orientation in the fall. But you don't need to decide right away. You would probably want to plan on tracking for it early on. So by taking the 3 core your first year, and then taking 2 3,000 level courses as well. Those are the 5 courses that you need to take to be considered for the dual degree. But you have to apply by February 1st of your junior year. So you would need to know that you're planning to apply before then, so you can make sure you get those 5 courses out of the way and submit your application in time. But again, if you apply and are admitted, you don't have to do the program. So you can decide not to at that point if you have a job offer or something along those lines, or want to take some time off and get some work experience before going back to school. Are there other opportunities to travel and receive credit besides study abroad? Yes, there are domestic interterm courses. Some of them are in other locations in the US. We are also working on, at Korbel, a DC semester option. So maybe if you want to do that and kind of network out in DC, hopefully that's something that we have some more finalized in the future. But we have one student going there in the fall. So there are other options as well besides studying abroad. Okay, good question. What is an approved unaffiliated program? So DU partner programs come back when you bring the credits into DU. They're completely vetted programs, and they're partners with DU, and we allow those credits to come in as DU credit. So any unaffiliated programs, so whether they're approved, unaffiliated, or unaffiliated, are come in as transfer credit. So they would just show up on your transcript or degree audit as transfer credit rather than DU credit. When you're looking at unaffiliated programs, you just want to make sure that you would be bringing those credits in before your final 45 credits at DU. And this is, we're talking about your first quarter here, so this is well in advance. And we'll have plenty of time to talk about that too in one-on-one advising appointments. But approved unaffiliated, the university's done some vetting on those, but they'll come in as transfer credit. For students who pursue the 5-year degree program, is additional financial aid available? So during your 4th year, as I mentioned before, you would still be an undergraduate student. So you would be doing 2 graduate courses each quarter, your senior or 4th year. And you would also be finishing up the remaining undergraduate requirements you have. So you would probably have your ASEM left, and maybe other classes for your other major, minor. And then you graduate at the end of the 4th year, as I mentioned. And when you're admitted into the MA, you'll find out any types of scholarships that you've been awarded. And then you can apply for federal financial aid through the FAFSA as a graduate student. So you wouldn't need to file as a dependent. You could file as an independent. But there is some financial aid. It's not as great as the undergraduate financial aid packages. So a lot of these are very specific questions. Are there any more first quarter fall course selection questions? I think if I took a dual credit Spanish class, do I need to take the online Spanish language test before arriving on campus? I would recommend taking that placement test. When I study abroad, am I usually with other DU students or students from other colleges or just myself? Again, it depends on the program that you choose. Where do I find the Common Core classes? On the registration website, so that you can find there. Can I change my classes during discoveries? Yeah, you should be able to change your class throughout the summer up until you arrive and get started. Any other questions about fall registration? Awesome. If not, we will see you at Discoveries. I look forward to meeting you then.